You know, every job has its rules, right? But have you ever stopped to think, who writes the rulebook for the entire planet? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into exactly that.
Seriously, it's a massive question when you think about it. I mean, from a factory in Vietnam to a coder at a startup in Silicon Valley, there's got to be some kind of global baseline for what's fair, what's safe. So who's in charge of that?
And that's exactly where a global rulebook for work comes into play. We need something that champions social justice and, makes sure that economic progress doesn't mean we sacrifice people's basic dignity.
Okay, so the organization behind this massive rulebook is the International Labor Organization, or as you'll often hear it, the ILO. And get this, they've been the main game in town for setting these global standards for over 100 years.
Yeah, that's right. Over a century, it was founded way back in 1919 as part of the treaty that ended World War I, and they've managed to stay incredibly relevant. For example, in 1998, they came out with this huge declaration that basically reaffirmed the core fundamental rights that every single worker, no matter where they are, absolutely deserves.
And their home base? Geneva, Switzerland. Which, makes perfect sense. It's pretty much the world's capital for diplomacy.
All right, so what's really at the heart of the ILO's mission? What's the core idea? It really all boils down to a handful of principles. These are the non-negotiables, the fundamental rights that every member country has to sign on to.
And here they are, the four big ones. First, freedom of association, the right to organize. Then, the complete elimination of forced labor. Third, the abolition of child labor. And finally, getting rid of discrimination in the workplace. These four really are the pillars, the absolute bedrock of what the ILO is all about.
Okay, but wait a minute. You might be thinking, what about the right to strike? That's a huge deal in labor rights, right? It feels like it should be one of those core things.
Well, here's the surprising twist. It's not. The ILO absolutely recognizes the right to strike, don't get me wrong, but it's not officially classified as one of those four core conventions. It's a really subtle but super important distinction.
So you're probably wondering, how does an organization like this even make these rules happen? This is where the ILO gets really, really interesting. I'd say its secret sauce isn't just what it does, but how it's built.
It's what they call a tripartite model. Think of it like a three-legged stool. Super stable, right? You've got one leg for governments, one for employers, and one for workers. They all sit at the same table, and they all have an equal say. It's pretty revolutionary.
And that balance is absolutely crucial. It means policies aren't just dictated by governments. No, the actual businesses who have to make it work, and most importantly, the workers who live under these rules, they're all in the room, part of the conversation from day one.
And the big event where this all goes down is the International Labor Conference. It happens every year, and it's where these three groups get together to hash things out, negotiate, and create the next wave of global labor standards.
Okay, so we've got the core principles, and we've got this unique three-way structure. But what's it all for? What's the ultimate goal here? Well, it all builds towards one simple but really powerful idea.
To get there, the ILO basically has two main tools in its toolbox. First up are conventions. These are the heavy hitters. They're like international treaties. If a country ratifies one, it's legally binding. They have to follow it. Then you have recommendations. These are more like official guidelines or a set of best practices. They aren't binding, but they carry a lot of weight and help shape a country's laws. And both of those tools, the conventions and the recommendations, are all driving towards one big goal: decent work. And that's a key phrase. It's not just about having a job, any job. It's about work that's productive, that pays a fair wage, that's safe, and that gives you and your family a social safety net.
Yeah, when you boil it all down, the entire mission of the ILO, everything from those core principles to its unique structure, it's all about one thing: creating a world where people have productive work with rights, protection, and dignity.
But that leaves us with a really big question, especially today. In a world of remote work, AI, and the gig economy, what does decent work even mean anymore? The goalposts are always moving, and figuring that out is the challenge for all of us. It's a conversation that's more important than ever.